Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today I've been checking out a super, and I mean super early access title called Vietnam War. It's £11.49 on Steam. So what is Vietnam War? Well, it's an open world single player FPS. You need to command your squad in battles across jungles, hills and the villages of Vietnam. You can also fight as the US or the Vietcong, and on top of this, even select different units who will all spawn in different locations, different bases, have access to different vehicles, which there are over 50 available at the current time, and a vast arsenal of weapons. Just imagine if Arma had a baby with Ravenfield and you wouldn't be too far off. As always, let's start with gameplay. Gameplay wise, it's a pretty much bog standard FPS. You can play as the Americans or the Vietcong, as I said, and the action takes place on a massive 1,000 kilometer squared map that covers North and South Vietnam, Laos and Cambodia, with hundreds and hundreds of bases and villages dotted about. Honestly, the size of this game is bloody impressive. Once you have selected a faction, you can then select a subunit. So the Americans are a bit more built out here. I think they have 10 to choose from, with spec ops to naval air to patrol boats, and then each come with like their own little base of operations. Like naval air takes off from the USS Kitty Hawk. Boats have a platform to launch from. The Vietcong have 4 sub-units to pick from, and obviously not as much variation. Once you select your sub-unit, you'll be dropped onto the map and missions will be presented to you. So it'll be like patrol a certain area, bomb a certain location, search and destroy some enemies, defend an area, or attack a base, and off you go to complete that objective. However, I will say the map information and locations need to be way better. It's like go and attack this location, and it can be really hard to find out where it is. I think some sort of HUD element would be good, especially in fast jets, as it's almost impossible to find out where you need to go when you're flying. While you're taking part in your missions are happening all around you. You will see F4 Phantoms dropping napalm on the area, helicopters flying overhead, you'll encounter random enemy patrols, you'll just be walking around and there'll be a gun nest and you have to take them all out, or there'll be a tunnel, or there'll be a trap or something like that. I will say this game is as jank as all hell, but I loved the dynamic feel of it. It was just so cool to watch like a hill getting covered with napalm as you were driving past. There was another time when I was like held down by this tank and I hid behind like a hill, and then this aircraft just went overhead and bombed the hell out of the tank. I didn't tell it to do it. I don't know how it worked it out, and it was just really fun. I find a lot of games like this, you never really feel like you're in a wider world of like chaos or action. Like if you're playing Arma, it only ever feels like the battle's very confined to where you are. This isn't. War was everywhere. The amount of vehicles and weapons is also super impressive. There were helicopters ranging from the Huey to the Cobra to the Hind, aeroplanes like F4s and MiGs and Broncos, then there was tanks, there was jeeps, there was anti-air, there was transport, and then you've even got patrol boats. There are over 50 vehicles in the game. However, the controls are just absolutely shocking. The tanks handle like they're on ice. The F4, I don't really know how you're supposed to fly that thing. It was so quick, and it's like bomb this certain area, but I would say it was just very difficult to even do something like that, especially the way with the map set up and stuff like that. The Hind and Huey I had a bit more fun with because they were a bit slower, and they had like loads of weapons like rockets and guns, and I was able to take out a few bases with them. The boats were fun to use as well, but my crew were just not firing on anything, so I got taken out a couple of times and it was a little bit annoying. Each vehicle does have like some sort of interior. The tanks were probably the best ones. They seem to have the more thought put into it. The rest were variable quality. Some were alright, some were a little bit rubbish. Also, the controls weren't always the best. I think it needs a bit more of a control binding set up for certain vehicles. Again, janky as all hell, but the variety and amount really has to be applauded. Weapon wise, you also get a boatload of them as well, as I think you can tell there's a lot in this game. You get guns to sniper rifles to RPGs to trip mines. Everything was covered. There was just loads of them. You restock and refill at the armory, but I think it'd be way better if your unit you selected had a loadout attached to it, because every unit just had the same loadout, and also maybe just a loadout selector when you're selecting a unit would just make way more sense. You can also use your radios to like request airstrikes, artillery support, reinforcements, request new missions and supplies, as well as controlling your team with like basic commands such as follow me, attack, heal up, lay low, mount up if you have a vehicle or boat. The command interface, again, really janky. Sometimes it seemed to work. I mean, sometimes a very small amount it seemed to work. Mainly it just didn't do anything, and I would just be left on my own in the middle of nowhere, and it was really starting to annoy me because they're giving you the team controls, but it just doesn't seem to work. And again, it was the same with the menu. Sometimes they work, sometimes they didn't. Like, you try and request a new mission, nothing would happen. Some vehicles showed you controls and all different weapons, some just didn't bother. It just seemed to totally depend, and it really added to the overall rough experience when trying to play this game. There are also NPCs and animals. The NPCs are the local civilian population. You can help them out and protect them. You can even buy stuff off them like drugs and food and stuff like that. Or you can just go on a murder spree and murder them all. The choice was really yours. There was also animals like monkeys, snakes and tigers. The tigers will attack you. The monkeys and snakes just kind of left you alone. I've not really seen many games do wildlife. So again, jank, but it was cool to see. Graphically, it's got a certain look to it, and it doesn't look, I don't know, it doesn't look terrible. It actually looks decent in some parts. The vehicles are all pretty well modeled. However, animation-wise, it's pretty rubbish. There's loads of clipping issues. I can just walk through most of the trees. Things like planes don't even have wheels. They just kind of hover there, and it looks a little bit rubbish. But I will say the explosions and stuff like that, they're okay, they're not too bad. Sound-wise, it's also a little bit basic with some AI voices in there, but it didn't sound terrible, to be fair. But when the combat's going on and explosions going off everywhere, it did actually sound alright. Now, I've mentioned the word jank a few times in this review, and well, this game is an absolute mess. It's just about playable. There are so many issues. It's really poorly optimized considering the graphics. There's lag spikes, there's crashes, there's squad mechanics just don't work. Pathfinding is terrible. Trying to maneuver your squad is just pointless. Enemies and AI are just annoying, be it friend or foe. Enemy AI can see you from miles away and just take you out, which is really annoying. AI pilots will just crash into buildings. I was watching AI driving a tank just knock a few towers over, then just stop and do nothing. And many of the functions just don't work. When you want to exit the game, you have to click exit once and then press escape to come out the menu, and then it'll exit. It's just annoying. Plus, there's really long loading times, and mine's on an SSD. And I think the biggest issue with this game is the developers just basically added every single gameplay mechanic and variance on a massively open world map. It'd be like making like a bunch of cakes and just throwing all the ingredients in at once. It just doesn't quite work. I think you need to strip it back a little bit and say, okay, right, first person shooter, how do we make this work on a little area just to get a feel of how to make it better? Then work on how to get the squad working. Like, does F1 work? No, well, how can we get that working to make it better? And okay, let's add a couple of tanks and let's see how they work within the game. And then the airplanes, then the helicopters, and so on, and build it up. It's just got far too much going on, and basically none of it really works very well. Under the hood, there is a core of what could be a super unique and fun experience on a massively open battlefield with dynamically changing front lines in a fun theatre of war. But what's delivered is just not there yet. It needs so much work done to it. I would say on this one, add it to your wish list and keep an eye on future updates. It's hard to recommend buying it at the moment. I mean, it is just over a tenner. It's not like a load of money, but it is just a bit too much of a frustrating experience. And I really hope the developer can make this work, as I really love the idea of this game. Anyway, guys, I'm going to leave that one here. Let me know in the comments below what you think of this game. Did you enjoy the coverage? And will you be adding it to your wish list? Anyway, don't forget to like, comment, and hit that notification bell if you don't want to miss any future content. And catch you all later.